This episode isn't directly about the battery. It's about the thing that made the battery story possible. I've been thinking a lot of this lately, and now I want to share my thoughts with you. Why can things like Theranos or Uros here in Finland happen? One main explaining thing is the culture. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. People often see company culture as something soft and fluffy and something that just has to be there, like free coffee and soda and that beautiful poster in the lobby of a company telling the company's values. But actually, company culture is an operating system that tells what can be done and said by whom, what has to be buried, and who gets to ask the questions. Nordic Nano was my dream job. I helped to build the company, I helped to build the culture in there. Then Donut Lab came along, and the cultural operating system changed immediately. I felt like traveling back in time, like traveling from the times of Renaissance back to the dark Middle Age. So next I'm going to do some cultural comparison. In Nordic Nano, information flowed freely. Everybody had access to information and transparency was by default. In Donut Lab, information was hoarded and siloed. I started to call it mushroom management. Keep them in dark and feed them shit. Then about the hierarchy. In Nordic Nano, the hierarchy or the level of the hierarchy was really flat. Everybody was allowed to ask anything from anybody. The CEO was sitting in the same room with the rest of the team, and everybody could talk about everything and anything with anybody. In Donut Lab, the hierarchy was really strict and clear and unquestionable. The leader's authority was not to be questioned or not to be challenged. Then about dissent and different opinions. In Nordic Nano, those were encouraged and were seen as a sign of engagement. In Donut Lab, those were seen as a threat. In Nordic Nano, the decision-making was shared, and the implication of the decisions made were clearly explained to everybody. Everybody knew what we were doing and why we were doing. In Donut Lab, decision-making went strictly top-down. No explanations were supposed to be required and no explanations were offered. In Nordic Nano, the person who was asking questions was seen as an asset. In Donut Lab, that same person was seen as a threat. The way Donut Lab company culture was built, that was no incompetence. Incompetence is random. The way things were done here was very structured and aiming to do something. I want to use the next word quite carefully, the cult. I'm not using it lightly, I'm using it because it fits here. And let me say one thing here. I'm probably one of the most tolerant people when it comes to the matters of faith. People can believe in anything they want. They have the freedom to do that. Be that God, Allah, or Ganesh. That's not really none of my business. There are some quite clear signs of a cult here. And one is the unquestionable authority of the leader. In Nordic Nano, we called Marko Lehtimäki Isä Aurinkoinen, Le Roi Soleil. L'état, c'est moi. The next one is control of information. Who knows what is decided from the top. Knowledge and access to information are given as a reward and taken away as a punishment. An inner circle and the outside world. You're either in the belief or you're a threat to it. A demand for loyalty over truth. If you start asking the wrong questions, you're marked and you are automatically moved to the outer circle. Demonization of those who doubt. Asking for evidence is not a sign of engagement. It shows disloyalty and instability. A story that explains everything. The vision is total and unquestionable. Setbacks are not failures of vision or facts. They are failures of faith. This is not just an unpleasant environment to work in. This teaches good people to stop asking questions, and it rewards the ones who look away. It makes silence feel like loyalty and questions feel like betrayal. Here is a part people easily miss. A cult structure isn't just a bad way to run a company. It's an extremely effective way to build certain kind of company, one with something to hide. Information silos mean no single person ever sees the whole picture. Everyone holds one piece. Only the top sees the full game board. That's the perfect way to control. Unquestionable authority means the numbers are never challenged from inside. When no one is allowed to ask, is this real? The gap between what's claimed and what's true can grow as wide as it needs to. Loyalty over truth means the people who could speak up do not speak. Fear does the work that the NDAs just can't. The split between inner circle and the outsiders means anyone who does speak up is already pre-labeled, discredited before they open their mouth. The all-explaining story means inconvenient facts get reframed as attacks on the vision. Evidence becomes heresy. I'm not telling you a crime was committed here. The police and the financial supervisory authority are looking at that. And that's their job, not mine. What I am telling you is this. If someone wanted to build the conditions where questionable things could happen and stay hidden, they would build it exactly like this. A healthy culture surfaces problems. This one was designed to bury them. Faith is a beautiful thing in a church, but in a cap table, it's a liability for everybody except the one who's collecting the checks. So, as we know, culture eats strategy for breakfast. At the Donut Lab, it ate the truth for lunch. A culture like this doesn't survive contact with daylight, so they kept the lights off. That's what this story is about. Me trying to find the switch. Next week's episode is going to be about the system, the regulators, the media, the authorities, the whole bigger picture. Next week, we turn the lights on.